Hello, my disciples of darkness. I am so sorry we are not really talking about video games today. Well, because Mirta is still, half there, half everywhere. Effectively, I have a lot of things to do and very little time to do them. I have just poked my head out of the cardboard box mess that is my home right now because we were doing a lot of furnishing purchasing, which I absolutely love because for one thing, I now store my jewelry like right above my head. So hey, I get to wear it more often as it's very easy access for me. And as you can see, I have gotten a bit of a glow up, which means that I have fully replaced all of my wardrobe with goth clothes, so I can look like an Elvira cultist whenever I feel like it, which is absolutely amazing. I am living the aesthetic. I am living the witch life. It is the best life that there is. Anyway, so I have gotten an anonymous email asking me to do a live reaction to a couple of videos that are talking about more politically inclined topics. And as you know, I am trying to stay away from these in general. But hey folks, if you want me to talk about something specific and you send me a message, I'll probably will do it because I will be like, yeah, why not? That sounds like a fun way to spend my midnight. Majority of my opinions still stand the same way that they do. I don't see these kind of things as something to get outraged about because I see that as a waste of time. The video is about listening to Laura Towler talk about stop moaning about cultural appropriation. I am gonna listen to it myself and I am gonna cut to sentences where I can comment something and, you know, me actually commenting on it because I am not trying to steal this girl's video. She's perfectly valid and she is doing her own thing, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to fulfill the thing that I was asked to do. So we shall dive in now after a 3-minute intro. Holy Jesus me. Okay.
Video. So I have a confession. I've been playing video games.
She's been playing video games and she sounds so sweet and cute. I could literally eat that morsel right up.
Came out today, you'd have Twitter meltdowns, public apologies, and The Guardian and the BBC would be literally shaking right now. Talking of the BBC, I saw this.
Okay, so what she was talking about is a really bad music video with a singer singing in a very bad accent about a Japanese boy while a Asian-y themed riff is playing in the background. With my infinite wisdom, I am now gonna tell you that I don't blame you if you like mindless entertainment. But if you're a creator that is creating something and you like another culture enough to incorporate it into your work, I would assume that you would do more research into said culture than this. If you like Japanese music and wanna do a song about a Japanese boy, I am gonna assume that you can put 2 and 2 together and make a song with an actual Japanese riff in the background. You see, I have a bit of a relationship with cultural appropriation. How to phrase this? Okay, first of all, as a Satanist and as a person that has cut themselves off from majority of the society, I don't give a shit about what you do. It does not anger me, it does not offend me, it does not pierce my heart. That being said, if you like another culture, do appropriate amount of research in order not to present yourself as a fucking dickhead. I think that is the appropriate way of putting it. Now, not taking personal offense here, but I have seen a lot of times my culture be mentioned in books or movies where authors fundamentally did not even know where my country was. So you get wonderful plot lines about violinists in Lithuania that is getting bombed and looks like it's the middle of the Middle East. And we go, well, at least you know what our country's called. I suppose that is more than we can say about a lot of people. But it doesn't rub me the wrong way. You just present yourself as a total dickhead. That is the best way of putting it. Like, you didn't even do rudimentary amount of research in order to base your source material in a way that doesn't sell you as a complete and total moron. I don't think that we should have big Twitter outrage mobs. I don't like big Twitter outrage mobs either way. Don't really like outrage. It's not necessarily my thing. But with Japan, there is no way that you wouldn't know what Japan is. So it's the equivalent of Lithuania is somewhere in the Middle East, but for Japan. The song, effectively. She knew what Japan was. She sorta knew what Asia sounds like. She thought that she could probably theme an outfit out of it, and decided to call it a day right there and then. It comes off as this really weird, phony imitation where you don't. It's like you're building a movie on a book, but you never actually read the book. You read half of the plot summary of Wikipedia, and then you got bored. That is how these kind of things come off. In my opinion, culture sharing is a fantastic thing. I'm not saying that we all should be multicolored, multicultural little shining jewel in the stars. Because if you are trying to incorporate every single culture and every single person is doing that, you're gonna end up with this very weird mishmash of 1,000 things that don't gel together. But what I'm saying is, if you find another culture to be interesting, if you like their style, if you like their dress, if you like their music, if you like their religion, if you like their practices, read up on them and engage in them, and majority of all people will be completely and perfectly fine with it. And actually, you can see a lot of cultural exchanges between Japan and England, where a lot of English actors and movies and so on and so forth will actually kind of mention Japan and show it off, while a lot of Japanese anime will mention English mystical stories and our Middle Age, because we find each other's backgrounds to be fascinating. And that is, I can only encourage that. There is this very weird thing, it mostly happens in the occult, where a person will go in and will proclaim a practice to be closed, because this practice should only belong to the indigenous people of the bloodline where the practice has originated. Most infamous things would be a lot of people running in and saying that voodoo is closed and nobody but people of certain bloodlines should be practicing voodoo. Less known facts are more like when people come in and ask if certain very distinct practice is closed, like Sami. Can I practice Sami things, or do I have to have Sami blood in me? Actually, guys, I think I have to have Sami blood in me, just so that everybody knows nobody can practice Sami things. And from the perspective of supposed god that you would supposedly be worshipping, that is probably a complete and utter disaster, because they're like, I would like some followers. So you can't really go in and say that. I suppose my point is you can't really go in and say that other people should be excluded from engaging in other cultures, because that is really a baffling thing to do, and it benefits absolutely nobody, honestly. But at the same time, this little corny music video and everything, I would consider the artist to have been a total buffoon, dickhead, moron for doing that little amount of research. I suppose books were hard to come by in 1980s. I don't know. Okay, let's study this picture, shall we? I mean, I am currently between that music video and this picture. I'm largely agreeing with this woman of it's pretty dumb that we show off something and then people call it out and then an apology comes. Previous topic of this was cornrows, and cornrows are not Africa exclusive, so I don't really see why that is a huge deal that people wear cornrows. But what actually does stand out for me is the Indian American headdresses. It's a bit like a cheap costume, isn't it? Like, hey, I'm going to a Halloween as an Indian American, but it's a friggin' expensive underwear modeling. That just, it does not compute for me. Effectively, from my perspective, in that case, you kind of took a stereotype, which you would use as primarily Halloween costume and not much else, and you're like, let me walk that down the runway? That's not choice, bro. Odd choice. Then, you see, this, I don't know about this one, to be honest, because now it's kind of the same thing, but now you're dressing up as a goddess. I mean, I suppose this one is a tough one, because do we have the same status of portrayal for all gods and goddesses? And my answer is immediately no. We find some to be better to be portrayed than others. For example, the person here that is very brave to be wearing all of these arms and present themselves as Kali would probably never present as prophet of Islam, because their head would roll. But at the same time, if they presented themselves as Thor, nobody would bat an eye. And that is such a double, triple standard that I don't know what to do with the picture of the woman with 8 blue arms. I hope that the worshippers did not hope that it didn't actually upset anyone following the religion, because if the religious followers are like, nah, this is fine, then it's none of my business what you do with your body paint. But, I mean, do that to a different religion and your head literally rolls, so...
This is such an obvious take, but it needs to be said. It only works one way, doesn't it? If a white person uses something from a non-white culture, that's cultural appropriation. If a non-white person uses something from a white culture, that's absolutely fine. I can't stand the double standards.
I also can't stand the double standards, lady, but it grows deeper than that. If a non-white person uses something from a white person's culture, it's not only not culture appropriation, they were made to do it, and they were made to assimilate a culture that is not theirs, and woe is them because they're forgetting their roots. So hey, I don't like the double standard, but I normally I stay out of those things. There are legitimate people with legitimate issues, with legitimate concerns, and even those that are concerned about preserving disappearing cultures. But how often do you get people stand up, and how often do you hear somebody going, oh, it's a shame that Romani people have decided to incorporate the culture of whatever country that they're in, where they have lost what was very specifically theirs, and they're now performing the songs and the customs of the place that they're in while still living in their own little communities that don't really have a way to pass their previous customs. So their customs only exist for as long as the old people in the community exist, and when they die off, or they migrate, or the time passes, their customs change again, making their culture really incredibly hard to follow and document, and that is specifically while we're trying to do it. How often do you hear somebody say that? Probably not often at all, do ya?
Imagine if we started moaning about cultural appropriation. All these black celebrities who have nose jobs to look more European, that's cultural appropriation. Please stop that.
I have to get to that bit of a point of making your nose look a little bit more European. Oh god, now I'll have to go and Google. Wait a minute. Give me a second. I'm off to try and prove a point. Okay. I'm good. I can prove a point now. Look at her nose. Right? Look at her nose. Look at her nose. Look at her nose. Look at her nose. Just like not every single Jewish person will have a giant nose, not every single African person has a wide nose. There's actually quite a lot of spread of different facial features among different races, just so you know, but for some reason people very rarely actually bother to notice that. I don't know how we arrived at that point, but no. Having a smaller nose is not really it's not really necessarily a European thing. You can have different looking facial features, and when you claim a nose as a European thing, you actually create very weird problems that Japan is suffering from right now, of all places, where if you're born with hair that isn't straight or black, which 99% only happens if you're mixed with another race, that wasn't the thing in their communities before. This is why it's a problem now and not a problem 100 years ago, even though, just so you know, the redhead gene mutation, yeah, that shit would happen still. That's just something that happens. So you could still have found redhead that is of pure Japanese descent. Their life probably also wasn't very easy because of it. But the rules state in both workplaces and schools that your hair has to be straight and black. And if it isn't straight or black, you have to prove that you were born with hair that isn't straight or black, normally through a doctor's appointment at a hospital that will give you a special note. But the issue is that even with a special note, other people will still make fun out of you in your schools, and you will not be protected against that. Because, yay, society. So when you go, only Europeans have small noses, and you can't do plastic surgery. Let's just say that this is the example. Let's say that this was real life, that whatever this woman is talking about actually happened, right? I mean, I know that she doesn't even mean it, that she's not even trying to claim it, but let's say that it happened. Well, imagine being born with a small nose while having a black skin tone. Yeah, welcome to the currently existing Japanese problem where after all of the bullying and ridicule you are like, you know what, it might just be easier for me to be bald, which is what a lot of school students came up with. And if you're a girl, a lot of girls even end up being quite suicidal because non-stop pestering by your classmates and by your teacher and being called names and bullied for years on end just for the features that you were born with. So just be very careful with these things, please. I mean, we're trying to be. I thought we moved past this, honestly, as a society. Like, of all of the moaning that goes around in the West, I think that we're pretty good at accepting different facial features and different hair tones and different hair colors and different hair textures. We're pretty good at that. Let's keep it that way, please.
You moan about white people all the time. Do you use a computer and electricity and the World Wide Web and type out your message in English? That's cultural appropriation. Please stop that. Remember when...
Now, I ain't gonna contradict that English is a white language, but English is also a language that hasn't been very stationary. Go back to Shakespearean English and you will still sorta understand it, but go back a bit further and it starts sounding like some sort of weird German-Norwegian mix. It's to a point where you go back a few hundred years and you can't actually speak English anymore because English has been that non-stationary, meaning everybody kinda has a little piece of English because English has a little piece of everybody. Unlike, for example, my home country language that has not moved for hundreds of years, but we did not have the written word up until about 1500s when Christians started invading and we got a written word. We were completely fine with the whole vocal tradition thing. We were nice pagans and everything. Not to say that we were uneducated. We weren't uneducated. We were living just fine. We were living just fine without the Christian invasion. But anyways, my language practically did not change. English changed quite significantly. So why it's still white skin tone language, it also has a little bit of piece of everything. It's kind of like a mishmash. It's the bish-bosh mishmash, the language of the slush-slosh. You know, it's kind of like you were making mashed potatoes and you put potatoes, but then you were like, red potato fell in, a sweet potato fell in, an apple fell in. Well, I'm still mashing this. This is still mashed potato, right? Yeah.
You're a Jamaican woman living in Britain. You appropriate our entire civilization every single day.
I find that to be a bit of a... Yeah, it's kind of a hit below the belt. Because technically, if I had children, it's a very technically right now, as a Lithuanian that lives in Britain, my child would end up with kinda two cultures, because they would kinda know their mother's culture a little bit, and they would also know culture of the place that they live in, which is what happens when you have immigrants. No need to use that, no need to hit behind the belt there.
I know that the argument for cultural appropriation is the same as the argument for racism. It can't happen to white people because it's all about the dominant group and the oppressors versus the oppressed. By the way, the institutional racism argument is a load of...
I don't think that that's what the cultural appropriation thing is to do with, honestly. I think the cultural appropriation people, which is something that I disagree with, think that white people have no culture, or think that we have one unified culture. I have heard both, and just for the record, I disagree with both. But at the same time, if you are gonna be engaging with another culture, do it respectfully. I don't understand why you wouldn't take the time to research something. Might be just my inner bookworm, but it's not hard, and it's actually fun.
Of rubbish as well. Why don't these people just say what they mean? It can't happen to white people because the rules are different for you, and we just make it up as we go along.
Just gonna point out that the rules in life for a lot of things are very different, and we make it up as we go along. This goes for everybody, everywhere, around the world, right now. Just look at the current pandemic. I mean, do you think that the wealthy, do you think that the politicians have been sticking to home orders? Sure they haven't. I mean, English politicians keep on getting caught breaking it, but it's no biggie when they do it, because one rule for me and another rule for thee. That's just how it goes. Life in general isn't fair. And this isn't encouragement to treat others unfairly, or to say that we should have rules based on skin color, because that is pure on racism and I definitely disagree with it. I am just saying that one rule for me and another one for thee is prevalent everywhere.
When black people use white technology or science, or even when they wear a suit or use a telephone or brush their teeth, is that cultural appropriation? So that's the first reason why it annoys me, the double standards.
Well, I'm a bit sorry, but this speech kinda annoys me a tiny bit. Not because she's saying something really wrong, but because she's attributing science in itself to white people. Like it's something exclusive to us. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back a little. A lot of things came from Middle East. Should we just stop using all of their inventions? Or stop using all of inventions based on those inventions? I understand your point, but no, just if we have one thing, which is sharing of information, especially when it comes to science, don't make that about cultural appropriation. Sharing science is good. I mean, we already can't share medical technology, and we have great rifts around the world currently all over that. And it's causing a lot of little folk a lot of problems. And not just little problems, very, very big problems. So, no, just no. Leave science out of it. Leave the betterment of humanity out of it. Leave medicine out of it. Please, just share good things. Good things are meant to be shared.
I like English food. I like to buy produce when it's in season. If I listen to music, it's usually an English band. I like visiting the English countryside, etc., etc.
I largely have no issues with her argument. With her second reason, rather. My brain's switching off. I have been recording for 40 minutes. Fuck's sake me. But when you only largely engage with your English music and you only see English countryside, which is nothing bad actually, I am so planning to see a whole bunch of English countryside because I am very fascinated with it. I think we should all travel and see museums and see old buildings and listen to old stories and listen to spooky old ghost stories and learn mythology, and it's actually really bloody interesting. It is such a shame that when people travel they do it for beaches and seaside effectively. There's a lot of things to engage with in this world, a lot, that I would actually think that everybody should engage. But when you say, I largely consciously only listen to English music, only eat English produce, only visit English countryside, I feel like you're consciously limiting the amount of exposure that you can have to the world as a whole. There is a benefit from trying to figure out what the world looks if when you walk in different shoes and when you see it through different eyes, and that doesn't mean that you can be other people, and it also doesn't make her approach wrong. It's just you have a vast array of knowledge. You have the World Wide Web. You can look at French cinematography and compare it to English cinematography. You can look at Norwegian cuisine. You can learn how to cook 2,000-year-old Greek recipes. How amazing is that? And when you say, I largely only do these English things, I am assuming, of course this is on my person, but this is gonna be my assumption, that you're not actually trying to even dig into your own culture. You consume the surface level of media, meaning you probably listen to the radio, and you go and you get your lunch and your dinner and you get your fish and chips, and maybe, I don't know, you visit your countryside. You don't try and dig deep into culture, and you're exploring absolutely none of even the surface culture of other places. I feel like, in comparison to my life, your life must taste so bland. And this, I feel bad saying it because it's not a bad way of living. She is not wrong to live her life how she wants to, but there's this array of color that I found and that I'm digging for, and that you actually have to go out and search for. And you're just sitting there going, I stick with largely English things, and probably stick with largely surface things as well. Let me help you. This is not a career advice because I tanked my own YouTube channel and you're doing really well. Spend less time on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Ignore all of that. Go and dig through movies. See if you can watch a movie and then read about how cinematographists looks at a movie and how they construct it. Read a bit of color theory. Don't just like blandly stare at it and then look at it again and go, oh, I get it now. I get what they were trying to portray. Look at art. Read books. Pick up a new skill. Because everything can give your life so much more flavor than social media and the surface level of entertainment that you get off the local TV, radio, news. It's the outrage culture. If you spend all your life being angry and only angry, you're not only gonna avoid engaging in legitimate issues that every single country faces and has, therefore making you so much easier to control, you're gonna miss everything that's actually good in the world. Just gonna live a life of anger and probably not live a very long life, considering that it's probably damaging your heart. Alrighty then, well, this has been a very interesting experiment. Okay, nope, that's not a good way of putting it. I can both agree and disagree with her at the same time. We can hold a similar viewpoint in general, and I can still disagree on majority of points that she has raised. So, from a general point of view, I understand her feelings and understand what she's talking about. From my personal worldview and from the minuscule details, I find our views to be irreconcilable. But that is perfectly fine. It has definitely been an interesting experiment because I do feel like I have changed as a person over time because I am trying my damnedest to see the world from everyone's perspective. I am a fairly empathetical person, and in a debate I can stand there and go, I can see what you're saying and I can see what you're saying, and obviously neither of the side will ever want to hear me because they are so caught up in just being angry and tearing each other's throats out. That's normally how debates these days go, so I try to stay away from it. So I understand viewpoints, and I understand multiple viewpoints, and I will hold one myself, but I will not necessarily be very strict on it. It's more of a live and let live such thing. I will only get angry when you are successful at trying to disturb my life, or if I get too paranoid about your ability to disturb my life, in which case I will go on an occasional rant, and then I will absolutely curse myself because, well, it's another person just saying what they think over the World Wide Web, and they have such a little short-sighted path that they can't see what other people are saying, and by crossing it with my arguments, I am not helping them. They're just becoming more feverish in their determination to walk on this short-sighted path where they cannot see further away from their nose. Effectively, what I'm saying is that I'm trying not to let these kind of things faze me or concern me. If you want the full video of Laura Towler, I am gonna link it in the description down below. She seems like a sweetheart. I don't oppose what she is saying, but I feel like I've outgrown the need to have these debates, so I hope that I didn't come off as too offensive or offensive isn't the right word because offensive as a word got ruined. Effectively, I want to say that I hope that I didn't demolish Laura's opinion because that wasn't what I was trying to do. It is her opinion. I was just giving my opinion on her opinion, as per request. As for my opinion has been requested, I was also requested to take a look at another video. So we're gonna do that another day, for this recording is now 50 minutes long. Jesus Christ, what the hell is wrong with me? How did I manage to do that? Anyway, I hope that this video has been enlightening. Hope that you have enjoyed, and see you the next time.